Hey everyone, welcome back to the Awaken Mind podcast. In this last episode, we had an amazing conversation, Jacqueline Mack and I, on the topic of imposter syndrome. We really talked about how it can creep up on us, the way it impacts our lives, and the strategies of how to overcome it from Jacqueline's perspective and the way that she's worked with her clients. And the response to that episode was incredible. I got so many messages and people just sharing their own personal experience. And it kind of got me thinking that I needed to share my own personal experience as well, because oftentimes it's just my clients sharing their experience or me sharing a client's experience of maybe something that they've struggled with in the past. And it's kind of this unspoken thing, this imposter syndrome. What really floors me when we think about imposter syndrome are the amount of really, really high achievers where it looks like they have it all together from the outside, but inside they're screaming. They're kicking and screaming. And I always said that I fell into leadership positions kicking and screaming because I never actually wanted it. I wanted someone to just tell me what to do. You know, even to the very beginning of me starting my business 5 years ago, I was absolutely terrified the entire time. I was so terrified that I was inauthentic. I wasn't actually being myself because I was afraid that if I was myself, then people wouldn't like me. And it's interesting on Facebook just recently, I had posted that it took me 5 years to be perfectly okay with not being someone's cup of tea. And then I asked people how long it took them. And it was interesting to see some individuals said, oh, it took me 5 minutes. And someone else said, it took me 1 year. And someone else said, it didn't take me long at all. I've never really cared. And to me, it feels like a long time. And I'll tell you that this year was the 5 year mark. And so I'm also going to share that transformational period, which is actually still happening right now. I mean, you've heard some of my other podcast episodes where I talk about how it took me 4 years to get this podcast up and running. I wanted a podcast 4 years ago. Can you imagine where I'd be today if I actually just went for it and enjoyed myself and didn't feel like a fraud? And I remember when I was first starting my business, I felt completely unworthy of success. And a specific moment that stands out to me is when I started making six figures in my business. And it was after year one. So it started, my business actually, it was aligned. It was aligned that this is what I really wanted to be doing. This is what I was good at. This is what I enjoyed doing. And when I first hit that mark of making a little more than I made in my corporate job, I started feeling like a fraud. And I started feeling this way because I thought to myself, well, it can't be this easy. And maybe this is all fake. Maybe I'm just being fake. What if I'm actually not making the changes in people's lives? What if what I did wasn't helpful at all? And to be totally honest with you, there are some times in my work where I feel like, wow, this was such a great day. What like transformational experiences with my clients. And then I have some days where it falls flat and I'm like, oh my gosh, what just happened with today? What happened? And it took me a really long time to realize that sometimes you're just going to plant seeds for people because we all tend to have these feelings of being an imposter. We all tend to have this pop up every now and then of undeserving or who am I to be doing this in my work. And by the way, six figures isn't a big deal in today's economy. It's like not that much of a deal anymore. So, but at the time it felt like a big deal because it was something that was new for me. And each time that I go to accomplish something, I notice that little voice in my head that says, are you sure you're cut out for this? Maybe you should just, and Jacqueline, it spoke so clear to my heart. If you haven't listened to that episode, please go back and like and subscribe, but please go back to that episode, because she had mentioned that she's worked with clients who just want to burn their entire business down and just say, okay, I'm done with it. Sometimes it's just easier to go back to work and have people tell me what to do, or to not be in a leadership position if you are working for someone else, or if you're at a corporate setting, saying, well, maybe I should just step back and do something easier. Isn't it always easier to say we want to do something easier? And then what happens when we get an easier experience? We say to ourselves, well, crap, that's not actually what I wanted. And so I noticed this theme happening again and again and again and again, where I would either work with a client and I would be like, I should just refer them out to someone else. This seems like a really hard issue to work through. Or I would be, with a person who would be like, oh my gosh, can you be my mentor? Because I've had many students, as of recently, ask, oh, could you please mentor me in hypnotherapy and building a practice? And I'm like, what, me? Like looking behind, oh, I think you mean the lady up the road, like, and it took enough of that for me to realize that, wow, how many times does someone have to tell you you're doing a great job until you actually realize you're doing a great job? How many times do you have to realize that feedback is because someone wants to help you? Feedback is a great opportunity to become even better. And if you're experiencing the same things that I've experienced, I can guarantee there's been at least some moment in time where you have been terrified of feedback. Even in my corporate days, I was terrified of feedback. I even shared a story recently at the Victoria Dumay's Power Retreat. I was a speaker. I was speaking on overcoming anxiety, turning it into opportunity. And I'll share more about that in our anxiety series coming up in the future as well. But when I was promoted in the corporate setting, I became so full of massive anxiety for a client that was like a big wig client that I had to present upon, that I actually almost went into panic. And I was at the boardroom and I peed my pants, y'all. You got to hear. Maybe I'll have that be my TED talk when I share how I peed my pants. That's how anxious I was. And that's how much I was like, wait a minute, you want me to be on this contract, on this client? That's insane. And again, another situation where I look behind myself at, what? Me? Are you sure? And in these situations, I finally woke up. I started to realize that the external validation does not need to be external anymore. At what point, Shannon, at what point you, yes, now I'm turning my finger around on you, at what point can you say, this is enough right now? This is the best I can do right now. This is pretty good right now. I fumbled here, I fumbled there. This is more than enough. Right now. This is what's aligned right now. And I realized this when I was at a gathering with a group full of women, and they just said, you have to share your heart and you have to be okay with it. And whoever says that it's not okay, they're not in the right room. They're not in the same room that you're in. You guys are in totally different rooms. And little by little, over and over again, since the last year into this year, 2023 and 2024, I was further faced with the idea that the more I'm myself, the more fun I have. The more fun I have, the more authentic I feel. The more authentic I feel, the more successful I am. The more successful I am, well, we know what comes after that. So it's one of those situations where you have to now start to ask yourself these same questions and say, where is this coming from? Where is this not good enough feeling coming from? And my journey and this feeling enough started back probably like 4 or 5 years ago. It's been a journey, but now I peeled back layer after layer after layer after layer. And then one day I just woke up one day and made a decision like, screw it. We're doing this thing. And well, if everything burns down, it is what it is. Cause I can't hide anymore. I got to take the mask off. Can't hide anymore. And so when it comes to your situation and the reason why you're here and the reason why you're listening to this episode right now, you have to start to make that decision. Are you ready to drop the mask? Are you ready to be your truest and authentic self? And to be totally honest with you, if I could have, I would actually have walked my ass down to the store and got a shirt that was white with just a black sheep on it. Because sometimes when we're different, we feel like it's a bad thing. And that also contributes to a feeling of not enoughness, of being a fraud, of I don't have enough experience, of why do I have 20 certifications listed on my website? Like, who actually cares? They want to see testimonials, they want to see changes. So for you, start to ask yourself, when did I first experience this? When did I first have this feeling? And the way that I got to this feeling is I did a childhood regression, which is a hypnosis technique. I went to my beautiful mentor, my hypno mama, who I absolutely love and adore. And I really focused on this fear of public speaking. Now, this was 5 years ago, 4 years ago. I went to her for this fear of public speaking. And in this fear that I had, I really connected to the feeling, which is the felt sense. And she brought me back to the very first time I had this specific experience. And I was brought back to root cause. I was in the second grade and we were learning our times tables. And if you get all the way to your 12 times tables, all the way to the 12s, then you get a glittery pencil. Woohoo! A pencil with glitter on it. And everyone was super excited. Come on, we're in the second grade. Glitter pencils. Who doesn't like it? I am the only one in my class who did not get all the way. I got to the 11s, but you asked me if I know my 12s times tables. Nope, couldn't tell you. Couldn't tell you, but guess what? I have calculators now, so it's all good. But as far as that feeling, I created a belief at that moment of I'm not smart enough. I took that belief system of I'm not smart enough and it carried out into every other part of life. It started to stack on every single belief system in life. And so moving forward, I would look through a lens of I'm not smart enough. I'm not smart enough. And so when you think about these belief systems and what's being created for you, it also comes with a tag of, well, I'm not smart enough to be in this position. Oh my God, I'm a fraud. I'm an imposter. They're going to find out about me. I need to wear a mask and I need to act like a totally different person. Let me put 15 acronyms behind my name so I'm respected more. Like, come on. And so this is where this dialogue comes from. Men and women can experience imposter syndrome. But the thing that helped get me through this the most was all of this inner child healing, all of these experiences that really created and shaped my reality, which I later found out in life was ADHD, but it was the inattentive. So, I mean, remedial reading classes, talking very slow, spacing out, not finishing sentences. I would get made fun of all the time for it. And that belief system just began to grow and grow into this little monster called imposter syndrome. And so that's the way it played out for me. But some of you may have imposter syndrome tied to the way you look, or you may have imposter syndrome tied to the way you speak. Or I've had someone in the past who they felt imposter syndrome being a public speaker because they had an accent. And so this shows up in many different ways, my friends. And you have to really dig deep get quiet and begin the process of deciding where is this coming from for you and really discovering where this is coming from for you. So one thing that I recommend you do, because this is what I did, is if you have imposter syndrome, get a mentor. Number one, get a mentor, get a coach or a mentor, someone who can help talk you through situations. Sometimes we feel like imposters because we simply just don't have enough knowledge or we don't have the right support. So there's one thing. Another reason we could feel like an imposter is because we don't have the right resources, which again goes to the same exact conclusion, enough support. So if you get a mentor that can help begin to boost your confidence while also teaching you at the same time. That helped me significantly when I was first starting my practice, was having a mentor. So that's number one. The second thing that I did was a lot of healing work, like I said, around where these belief systems were coming up. When we can honor and release these belief systems, then we can begin healing and really see ourselves for who we truly are. And then this leads me to number 3 thing that I did, which has probably helped me the most, is putting myself in a space of business people or work people who support me. And for me, finding those women was a game changer. Finding people in your community who put you in a position to win, who put you on the road, on the path, and say, you know what? You're doing a great job. That's awesome. No, you did great. It's okay if you stumbled. Getting all of that is technically positive hypnotic suggestion. So a community is necessary. And if you're thinking to yourself, I don't know if I have community, I found my community through putting myself out there and networking and building relationships. And hey, you want to grab some coffee or you want to grab some tea? And eventually you find them. Eventually you find the people and you feel supported. And when you have people cheering you on, it feels good. It feels much better than doing it alone. Even if you are in a corporate setting, then it's really important for you to put yourself in a position to feel supported by those around you. Sometimes it's harder with remote work, but being able to pick up the phone and call someone, or if it's a previous coworker, and being able to talk through what that is, it's going to make a huge, 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 huge difference for you. And that breaking point, that shift, that unexpectedly realized that I was draining the joy out of what I was doing. And I hope that you can really find the answers within this as well. And so, if you have that inner dialogue that you're not enough or you can't do this based on that accumulation of fears, past experiences, expectations, it's really important to lean into yourself, journaling, into your community, and just to keep going. Letting go of perfectionism, remembering that no one likes someone who's perfect. Come on. And that relentless need to be perfect will never serve you. Embracing your imperfections and saying, ooh, I think that could be a strength for me. That's what makes me me. And being able to understand. I know how heavy imposter syndrome can feel, but if you're listening to this right now and it resonates with you, I want you to know that you are not alone. Your worth isn't tied to your achievements or how perfect everything looks on the outside. The fact is that you're showing up, trying, and continuing to grow is already something to celebrate. And I'm so grateful that I can share this journey with all of you and also like feel comfortable sharing this with you. I truly believe that each one of us has something truly unique to offer this world. I even thought about making like black sheep t-shirts for like a store branding. It'd be cool. It just reminds us all that it's cool to be weird. It's cool to be quirky. It's all good. And you belong here just as much as anyone else. Everyone belongs here just as much as anyone else. Thank you so much for listening today. If you found this episode helpful, short and sweet, I know, but helpful, I'd love it if you could share it with someone who might need to hear this. And don't forget to subscribe, like, review the podcast. It really helps us reach more people. And until next time, remember, you are enough just as you are. Keep embracing your journey one step at a time. See you later, guys.